Aloha, good evening, everybody, on this pleasant Friday night from Sandy, Utah. Welcome to the Rewind Sports Network and our coverage of Alta Hawks basketball, presented by Opal Luxury Services. Tonight, from the foot of the Wasatch Mountains in the Hawks Nest, the number 23 ranked Alta Hawks take on the East Leopards in a Region 7 showdown. And with my broadcast partner, Tyler Gibb, joining me, Alexander Smilip, here at Alta High School. So, Tyler, this is the first look we'll get this year at the Alta Hawks. And like I just said, this is the 23rd ranked team in the nation, and they already have won a state championship, and it is clear they are not satisfied with just one.
Yeah, how impressive is that to be in the top 25 in the whole country? I mean, you're 3 spots behind a school like Sierra Canyon, who, if you're a fan of high school basketball, you know that name. And they're showing the introductions on the big screen right now. It says our legacy, and there is a legacy of strong basketball at Alta High, and they're building that in one of their strongest stretches in school history right now.
17 out of 18 for the Alta Hawks this season to begin the season. On the other side, for the East Leopards, they're going through a bit of a rebuilding process right now with first-year head coach Scott Fields, and they face a pretty tall task ahead of them tonight, Tyler. A lot of teams in 5A will be punching above their weight class when they played the Hawks this season.
Yeah, it's not just it's not just East that has had problems with Alta so far this year. It's everybody that's run into the Hawks. And so East, this is a good time for you to just learn. You're going up against a really good team. Just try to execute your stuff and let the results take care of it.
And so let's get into the Heidemann and Associates keys to the game, Tyler Gibb. For both the East Leopards and the Alta Hawks, what do both teams need to do to come out of here with a W?
Yeah, if you're Alta, we talked to Coach Orn before the game, and he said, we just need to focus on playing our style. East is a team that likes to slow it down, use the shot clock, and he felt that when they played at East earlier in the year, they kind of settled back on defense and played to East's pace instead of trying to press and force the issue a little bit and play their style. So just focus on playing your game, and if you're East, you need to treasure the basketball. This is a big Alta team, but you need to make sure that everybody's crashing the glass so that you don't give any extra possessions to this East team, and then take care of the ball with turnovers. If you can control the pace and limit the possessions for Alta, you're going to slow the game down and give yourself a better chance to hang around and try to pull off the upset.
Well, as we said, the Alta Hawks, number 23 in this week's USA Today Super 25, a nationally recognized ranking. Of course, as Tyler said, they are 1 spot behind Sierra Canyon. And then 2 spots below them, Tyler, is not a bad squad either in Wasatch Academy.
2 schools from Utah in the top 25. That's a way to show that Utah has some great basketball.
That's an understatement, to say the least. So here we go. Jackson Johnson and Cooper Dodd will jump it up at center. Just after 7 o'clock p.m. local time, and we're off and running here from the Hawks Nest. And it will be Ace Reiser, the Bingham transfer, who will control it out front. He has his brother Dash in the lineup with him as well. And here is Jackson Johnson. The Utah commit goes to work, puts up the first shot, rolls off the rim, tipped by Goodfellow, and the rebound comes down to Logan Lunt. Sawyer Sutton out front, matched up against Ace Reiser, who 2 years ago was considered one of the best defenders and still is one of the best defenders in the state when he was with Kyle Stroutman over at Bingham. Sutton now off the screen, and we have a foul away from the basketball, and it's going to be called against Ace Reiser for trying to fight over the screen.
And Sutton is one of those guys that in a game like this, you need to make sure if you're Alta, you keep tabs on him. He had 21 in the previous matchup, but he hit 7 threes against Providence Hall earlier in the year. He's a guy that can make shots, and he makes tough shots, so you don't want to let him find a rhythm.
Off the inbound now, Sutton has it on the wing side, matched up again against Reiser. Here's Campbell Christensen. Got to Dodd, inside, Bergstedt, nice pass to Logan Lunt, puts up the tough shot, that doesn't go, and the rebound is captured by Johnson, and here comes Reiser. And this is what Alta likes to do. They like to run. Good dump down on the block. Doliak off the glass, won't go. And a foul called again on the rebound. That time it is going to be called against Goodfellow against Lunt. And we're going to go the other way.
Already we see what Coach Orn was talking about with the pace difference between these two teams. Alta's had 2 possessions, and they've probably lasted a total of 20 seconds, whereas East has had the ball once, and it was about a 40-second possession. They like to get into their offense and run these sets. So look to see if Alta will do something different to change the pace.
Sutton can't get that one to fall. Here comes Jackson Johnson, the Utah commit, who also had an offer from USC of note. Head coach Andy Enfield out there. Home of also former University of Hawaii head coach and Boston Celtics assistant Gib Arnold for a couple of years. And a turnover there is, here comes Dodd against Johnson, puts up the layup, that won't go. Tip on the rebound is captured by Christensen and a new 35. Bergstedt, open look three-pointer. And Johnson clears the glass, and up ahead, here comes Goodfellow. Nice toss ahead, and he is fouled going to the basket. And Tyler, you just talked about it. That's the difference between these two squads. The run and gun style that Travis Orn wants to play. On the other side, Scott Fields wanting to slow it down.
When you have an athlete like Jackson Johnson who gets a rebound and immediately turns and looks down the floor and throws a great pass to Goodfellow, that's what these guys want to do, and they're able to do that because of the chemistry and the talent around the team. So if you're East, you got to make sure you crash the glass, but you got to be careful crashing the offensive glass too hard because Alta will get out and run the other way.
Goodfellow goes 1 for 2 at the line. 1-0 Alta here early on. Nice dish inside, kick out to the corner. Sutton, nice fake to get by. Pull up from 15 feet. That's too strong, and the rebound is cleared by Doliak. Some good looks, though, in the early going here for the Leopards. Here is Dash Reiser. Reiser, scooped layup all the way in. What a move! Plays just like his cousin, Isaiah, who over at Copper Hills. And the Alta students already chanting, this game's over. I mean, we barely played 2.5 minutes.
And then we have a tie game.
And then well, we have a tie game just like that. So hold the phone there, students. I apologize for getting involved with that one, but I couldn't help but notice. Ace now in the corner across the baseline. That pass deflected. It'll stay here, and I think Tyler Gibb, that chant by the Alta students got the East bench fired up because they're coming out with some aggression now.
Yeah, they've played a really sharp 3 minutes. Like you said, they've had good looks. They haven't been able to make a lot of them, but they're getting good shots, and Cooper Dodd answers back to the student section and shows that they're not going to go down easy.
Cooper Dodd, who had 20 points in that last matchup. Ace Reiser rims out that 3. And here comes Campbell Christensen, tied at 3 early on. Alexander Timolip and Tyler Gibb here at Alta High School. You kind of get the feeling that this is going to be almost like watching St. Mary's offense slow it down. How about that move by Christensen? Can't get it to go. Lunt going up strong, but gets blocked. And then he commits the foul.
And what we're seeing early with East is they're getting to the rim and getting good looks, but because Alta is so long, it's hard for them to not factor that in mentally when they go in, and they just need to focus on going up strong. They're at the rim already. Some of them, yeah, Johnson's going to block, but that one they could have got off a little bit easier. They just go in strong and don't worry about getting blocked as much.
There's a three-pointer by Carter Tuliak. That's the first triple of the ballgame, and actually I think the second field goal Alta's made, and it's an early 6-3 lead here for the Hawks. Here's Cooper Dodd out front. Pass is deflected, so it would not have been a backcourt violation. Dodd, Reiser sticking to him like flypaper over there. Now on the opposite side, here's Lunt. Lunt, nice spin move to get to the paint. That one pops out, but how about the rebound there from Sutton? He can't get that one to fall on the rebound, and here's Doliak running all the way. Here is Goodfellow to the basket.
They're just getting caught watching a little bit in transition defense. You need to make sure that you find your guy instead of watching the ball while running back down the floor. You got to make sure that your guy's in front of you.
8-3 lead, 5 quick points here by the Hawks. Just past the halfway point of this first quarter on this Friday night from Sandy, Utah. At the foot of the Wasatch Mountains. Nice drive, taking it strong there is Cooper Dodd, and he is fouled. And that foul called on Carter Doliak, his first, and that will put the senior Dodd at the line.
You see that time how Dodd, instead of fading away, he went into the body of Doliak, and he draws the contact. If you go into the body, you're going to get those foul calls rather than fading away right away. You see he kind of goes in and then fades away after he gets the contact, but it sends him to the line.
Dodd steps up, too strong on the first. Tonight's broadcast of Alta Hawks basketball on the Rewind Sports Network is presented by Opal Luxury Surfaces. If you have marble countertops and they stain and etch easily, well, contact Opal Luxury Surfaces, and their state-of-the-art stone sealer technology can change your life. Find us online or on social media at Opal Luxury Surfaces and opalluxurysurfaces.com, and mention the Rewind Sports Network to receive $200 off. That pass deflected out of bounds by Dodd. It will stay here. And Tyler, returning to your point just a little bit ago, you know, it can make a difference fading away from the basket, trying to draw contact. The officials are a little lax when you drive into the body rather than fading away, I feel like, these days. Yeah,
they can see when you're going in hard to the rim, and if they're in the way of your lane to the basket, even if they have that length, if you go into them and you're making a move towards the basket, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt from the ref, especially when there is a big size difference and they can see that that contact throws you off your path.
Right. It helps when Jackson Johnson is 6'8", 200 pounds. That's poked away and stolen. Bo Compton, who just checked in, is ahead of the pack with Dodd chasing him down, and he's fouled. And I believe by my count, Tyler, that is already 4 turnovers for East. And every time that East has turned the ball over, Alta's had an opportunity to run.
Yeah, in the half court, Alta hasn't been able to find a rhythm. It's been in transition that they've been able to jump out to a little bit of an early lead. And you just have to take care of the ball. We've seen some possessions, where Alta isn't able to throw East off their timing, but we're starting to see a little bit more pressure. They're jumping passing lanes, and that's what Coach Orn was saying. We need to be the ones that play to our pace and our style rather than letting East dictate the pace.
And that is why they got to the free throw line, presented by D2D Millionaire, helping lawn care landscaping companies build successful door-to-door programs for over 20 years. Find out if your home service company can benefit from such a door-to-door program by going to lennygray.com. That pass thrown away, another turnover here. And a good poke away there as Bergstedt got back to break up the fast break on Carter Goodfellow. It will stay here, though, with the Hawks up by 6. Matt McKee and Dash Reiser check back in. Matt McKee, by the way, who was playing junior varsity in the last game, had a dunk that got his bench up in a frenzy. Here's Jackson Johnson, just too strong, and puts it up and in. That's what 6'8" gets you right there.
You can see he's not just tall, but he's smooth. He has a good feel for the game, and that's why so many colleges at the next level have wanted his talent.
Sure, Coach Craig Smith watching tonight from his perch up near the Huntsman Center. Nice move by Sutton, and gets that floater to fall. That's the second field goal that East has made, and it's a 6-point lead. Approaching a minute to go here in the first quarter. Alexander Timlip and Tyler Gibb. Here's Bo Compton back to Dash. 20 on the shot clock. Dash drives. Almost fumbled it, but got it right back, though, to Compton. Here is Johnson in the post. Turnaround shot. Pops out. Rebound captured by Christensen. Here comes Sutton. Sutton driving. Kicks it out in the corner. Lunt, open look, three-pointer. That doesn't go. Dash grabs the rebound. Has Compton running ahead of the pack. That pass deflected right to McKee, though. A swing cross court. Goodfellow, one more. And the three by Compton, that's short. And the rebound is taken by Lunt. And this, I believe, will be the last possession of the first quarter, as there is a 1-second difference between shot and game clock.
If you're Coach Fields in East, you have to be pleased with what you've seen in the first 8 minutes in terms of your defense not making it easy for Alta. There's been a few fast breaks off turnovers, but overall you've done a good job at limiting those opportunities. 5
turnovers, but East able to survive it so far, just down by 6. Sutton looked like he was fouled, and he gets it to go +1. Foul called on Johnson. That is the 4th on Alta, and it's going to put Sawyer Sutton at the line to shoot one more. He who averages 16.7 points a game. As we're waiting for the clock to be reset here. Clock officially reads 1.9 here in the gym. We'll see how much time they put back on. They're going to put it to 2.5 seconds here in the gym.
Clock maintenance before the shots.
So 2.5 officially on the clock here in the first quarter. Sutton to the line. Sawyer Sutton already making some noise here in this early part of the quarter. Free throw is good, and that makes it a 3-point game. 2 seconds to go. Reiser comes to half court. If he hits it, it's good. It's just off the mark. And that is the end of the first 8 minutes. So the East Leopards able to keep it close. We'll see if the Leopards can sustain it, as they're only down by 3 at the end of 8 minutes on the rewind. Seems very fitting it's a country night tonight here at Alta High School. Hey, if you love your marble countertops and if you're afraid, if you're a little bit of a neat freak of letting others use them because you don't want to stain or etch them, well, Opal Luxury Surfaces can take care of that with their stone sealer technology, and you never have to worry about that ever again. Find them online or on social media and mention the Rewind Sports Network in this ad to receive $200 off your next consultation. Alta Hawks basketball is presented by Opal Luxury Services on the Rewind Sports Network. Alexander Timolip and Tyler Gibb. Man, I tell you, if I love my marble countertops that way, I would definitely get that kind of insurance protection. But anyway, Tyler, an interesting first quarter because Alta, yes, had their chances. They forced 5 East turnovers, but after all of that, the Leopards are still only down by 3. How have they done it?
Well, they've done it defensively. Alta scored 81 points in the first matchup. They held them to 12 in the first quarter, and it's because half court, Alta couldn't do much, and they, like you said, they limited those fast break opportunities.
Cooper Dodd got it ripped away from him. Johnson takes a big hit, as I think Sutton actually might have taken the worst of that contact. Sutton is okay. But again, that's a big man coming at you. 6'8", 200 coming at you down the freeway.
That's a lot of talent there, too.
And that's an awful lot of talent, too, to deal with. As is every outlet on this Alta Hawks team, loaded with talent this year under head coach Travis Horn. Johnson in the post and puts it up and in. You feel like they're going to have to go through him a little bit more offensively because he has that size advantage. It's a 14-9 Alta lead. We should point out, East actually kept it close. A 1-point game it was against Brighton heading into the fourth quarter, but the fourth quarter was where everything unraveled. And it really turned into the game I think people were expecting, but Sawyer Sutton is saying, we're not going to let that happen tonight. He's already got 8. And the Leopards, once again, just a 2-point lead here for Alta. And meanwhile, we got a foul in the low block against Bergstedt.
You see the shot-making ability from Sutton on back-to-back possessions, or the possession to end the first quarter. He gets a tough and one, and then the 3 with the defender coming at him. He has a lot of talent. If you're Alta, you just need to make sure, especially at this time when he's getting hot and finding a rhythm, that you emphasize shutting him down, whether you got to send a double team or whatever it is.
Johnson underneath gets undercut, and he is fouled. Once again, the size advantage underneath of Jackson Johnson proving a factor. And that will put it on. And that will put on Jackson Johnson at the line for more D2D Millionaire free throws. As he misses the first. From roofing to carpet cleaning and every home service company between, Door-to-Door Millionaire helps home service companies build successful programs. Schedule a free consultation with Lenny Gray today to see if this kind of a program is a fit for your company by going to lennygray.com, a proud sponsor of Alta Hawks basketball. Johnson goes 1 for 2. He remains a 3-point game. Jay Schneider checked in at that last stoppage for the Leopards. Dump down on the block to Lunt. Lunt looking for a cutter. Back to Schneider on the dribble handoff. 15 on the shot clock. Guarded here by McKee. Christian Anderson, by the way, 22, also checked in at the last stoppage. Turnaround shot. Tough shot by Christensen. That one ejected from the rim, and Johnson grabs the rebound. Compton downhill and gets blocked, but a foul before that. And it'll be more free throws here for the Alta Hawks. So, Tyler, what the Alta Hawks are making up for with their struggle to find traction on the half-court offense is they're getting to the free throw line a whole lot.
Already 4 fouls in just under 2 minutes in the second quarter. And I think Bergstedt headed to the bench because he picked up his third foul on that possession a moment ago. So that's what happens in these games where there's a lot of size from Alta, and you just have to try to play them physical. But it's slowing the game down, and it's forcing Alta to earn their points rather than just getting easy layups.
Zach Papke checked in at that last stoppage for Alta as Compton goes 2 for 2. And a 5-point lead here for Alta. This, by the way, matches their largest lead of the entire game. But as Tyler said, already 14 fouls called against East. And David Bergstedt to the bench with 3 fouls already, so I doubt we are going to see him for the rest of this first half. And we now have a hand check on the perimeter against Papke.
That's his first. Team first of the quarter.
Side out here for the Leopards, who come into this game 7-10, 1-5 in Region 7. Sutton, back to Lunt. Kicks it to Anderson. Anderson matched up pretty well on the outside by Papke. Schneider. Schneider on the dribble. Puts up a tough shot, but he traveled. Looked like he tried the foot before he put up the shot. That's the 6th turnover for East. Or the 7th, rather, here in this first half. Ace Reiser kicks it out. Finds Dash. Pull-up jumper right side. And a timeout is immediately called by East. Scott Fields takes a timeout. We will take one with them as well. We'll be back after this word from Mountain Land Truck Outfitters with Alta up by 7, their largest here in the first half. Out of the timeout, Alta by 7. Alexander Timlip alongside Tyler Gibb here at the Hawks Nest at the foot of the Wasatch Mountains, with the Hawks leading by 7, their largest here in the first half. But the Leopards hanging around despite turning the ball over 7 times. Make it 8 now as Ace Reiser coming up with it in transition. Compton, one more. Papke. And good transition defense there by the Leopards to not allow Alta have a look at the basket. Reiser, pull-up jumper, got it!
Back-to-back jumpers for Dash in that same spot. You see the ball movement from Alta. That's one thing Coach Orn is really pleased with this team, is they love to pass up a good shot for a great shot.
That ball deflected out of bounds. It will stay here. Good defense there from Papke. We might remind you, the Rewind Sports Network's coverage of Alta Hawks basketball presented by Opal Luxury Services returns next Tuesday. Matt Kama has the call from deep in the heart of Salt Lake as the Hawks take on the Skyline Eagles. Coverage starts at 7 next week on Tuesday on your home for Alta Hawks basketball. The Rewind Sports Network has a collision between Ace Reiser and Logan Lunt. It's going to be a foul called against Ace Reiser.
This foul is going to be on number 12, Ace Reiser. That's his second.
And that is now his second foul.
The second quarter.
Remember, David Bergstedt already with 3 fouls. He's already been on the bench for well over 3 minutes. As Christensen, nice turn, and able to float it up and in. Splits the double team. And the East Leopards able to break the run.
Without Jackson Johnson in the game, those shots are a little bit more open for East as they don't have a big shot blocker in the middle.
Dash, nice pass on the pick and roll to Matt McKee. It's not a dunk, but it will certainly work itself out as Reiser comes back with a steal. Euro step, floater, got it! And another timeout called by Scott Fields. So, Tyler, after it was a 2-point game at one point, an 11-2 run by Alta, and they now have an 11-point lead. And what stands out to you about how the fact that well, let me rephrase that. What stands out to you about how Alta's been able to get this lead? Because as we've seen, the half-court offense, it's been a struggle.
You can see the adjustment that Coach Orn made at the quarter and just barely with the full-court press. I'm sure that he had to be feeling that East was controlling the style of the game more so than he would have liked. And by pressing and trying to jump passing lanes, that's been able to lead to some easy baskets for Alta. And that's why Coach Fields immediately took the timeout, because he didn't want things to get out of hand with that full-court pressure.
Yeah, already 9 turnovers for East in just this first quarter and a half alone, Tyler. And overall, East has been outscored 13-5 here in the second quarter. Sutton drives, kicks it out. On the wing side, here's Christensen. Christensen on the block, here's Lunt. Lunt goes strong. Ejected from the rim, but a foul. Jax Johnson, by the way, back on the floor. That foul is going to be called on Zach Papke. And that is now his second foul.
That was a great entry pass by Christensen to get that over the size of Doliak and put Lunt in a position to have a look at the basket. And it wasn't able to finish. He got pushed in the back as he was going. But you have to get creative and execute those passing angles and passing lanes when you're going up against such length.
Yeah, you look at the front line here for Alta. I mean, you talked about it, Tyler. 6'8", Jackson Johnson. 6'3", Carter Goodfellow. 6'6". And speaking of, there is Jackson Johnson right there with the bucket.
They've done a much better job at getting him touches low, catching it on the block rather than catching around the three-point line and having to make a move. They've just fed the ball to him at a spot that he can turn and go.
Sutton, tough three, that doesn't go. Kick out the corner. Another look here for Schneider. That's off the rim. Lunt, another offensive rebound. Credit the Leopards out hustling the Hawks right now to every loose ball on the offensive glass. Sutton driving against Johnson. Bounce pass to the corner. Trying to save it along that line. Pass deflected out of bounds. It will go back to the Hawks. Already 10 turnovers for East.
In that possession, it was Doliak and Johnson that were out guarding the perimeter, most likely because of the offensive rebound. It creates a little bit of chaos, and you have to just guard who's close to you, but that length causes problems.
Oh, my goodness! Put down on a postcard in the words of Dusty Lidster. The lob and the jam. 29-16 as that pass is deflected out of bounds. And that's exactly what 6'8" can get you on the post like that, Tyler.
Incredible athleticism from Johnson to catch that one-handed on the run and throw it down.
Paused at the top like the elevator was going up another floor or something as that shot deflects off the shot clock. It's a dead ball. As the Hawks now lead by 13. It was only a 2-point game, but since then it's been all Hawks. A 15-4 Alta run. Here's Papke. Puts up the three. Off the right rim, no good, and East will just let that trundle out of bounds and go back to the Leopards. Only one three-pointer made here for Alta here this first half. And it was by Carter Doliak, which is presented, of course, by Handel's homemade ice cream here in Alta. Hopefully we'll get to add more flavor recommendations to more scoops to the flavor recommendations by the end of the evening. Christensen step back three-pointer, way short. Here comes Dash. Dash turns the corner. Got cut off. And a late whistle and a foul is called against Sawyer Sutton. It came down from that It came down from that far sideline. So that's the 15th foul on East that will put Alta in the bonus the rest of the way. There's only a minute 25 left of this first half. Dashreiser to the line. First free throw is good. The Rewind Sports Network's coverage of Alta Hawks basketball is presented by Luxury Opal Luxury Services, excuse me. And for pest control to solar and alarm companies, they aren't the only home service industries benefiting from door-to-door sales. Find out how Day-to-Day Millionaire can help your home service company build a successful program. Go to lennygray.com to find out more. As this is deflected out of bounds, it will stay here. And by stay here, I mean it'll stay with the team in red. Minute 24 left here in the first half. Alta has outscored East in this second quarter. Has outscored East in this second quarter 19-7. As Zach Papke picks up his third with a minute 16 to go here in the first half.
We'll see how East handles the pressure from Alta. We've seen it a few possessions, and it's been productive for Alta, but they haven't kept it on consistently, and now they back off.
Jackson Johnson now matched up against Sawyer Sutton here. Cal gets the switch here with Doliak. Back it goes to Lunt. Lunt. 15 on the shot clock. Cooper Dodd drives, floater in the lane. Off the right rim, no good, and the rebound curve by Doliak. Compton. Back out top here to Dash. Maybe a 2-for-1 opportunity here for the Hawks. Bo Compton out front, looking for Doliak in the low block. Gets him and finishes. The first time I think we've called his name all night long since that three-pointer. And East, once again, like in the first quarter, will hold for the last possession.
You can see an adjustment that Coach Orn has made is he's put Jackson Johnson and his size and length out on Sutton to make it more difficult.
Switch on to Doliak. Now gets Compton on him. 8-7 on the shot clock, on the game clock. His three on the way. That's no good. Goodfellow the rebound. Johnson, he can do this. Puts up the three at the buzzer. It just rims out. And that's going to take us to the end of the first half. So Tyler, after it took a bit for the Alta Hawks to find their footing, but at the end of the first half, what stands out to you about how Alta was able to attack this East defense?
Yeah, they switched up the pace and some good defensive adjustments to bring more size and length up top on the perimeter. It was a little bit too easy for East to hold it up and get inside in the first quarter, but switching that up has made those passing lanes a lot trickier and forced more turnovers in a faster pace.
So Alta outscores the East Leopards in that second quarter 21-7. A 2-touchdown difference in the game and a 17-point difference on the scoreboard. I should say 2-touchdown difference in the quarter, rather. So the Alta Hawks lead 33-16. We'll be back with the second half in just a few moments. You're watching this presentation of Alta Hawks basketball presented by Opal Luxury Services on the Rewind Sports Network. Hey, if you're tired of stressing over your marble countertops, it stops now with Opal Luxury Services. Find us online or on social media and mention this ad and the Rewind Sports Network to receive $200 off. Alta Hawks basketball is presented by Opal Luxury Services here on the Rewind Sports Network. Alexander Timolip and Tyler Gibb here at Alta High. And speaking of giving away $200 off the Opal Luxury Services order, that's exactly what Alta made East do in the first half, Tyler. A lot of turnovers by my count, 10 Alta forced turnovers in that first half.
Yeah, and it seems weird to say because East only scored 16 points and had a lot of turnovers, but offensively what they're doing, they've been pretty effective in terms of cutting and getting some open looks. They just need to be smarter about deciding when to throw it inside and when to swing it around, because you have to be careful with the length and the passing lanes. So when they've been able to, take an extra dribble or get around to create a passing lane. They've been effective. It's just they've gotten hurt when they try to throw those quick passes.
Alta outscored Easton in that second quarter 21-7. And a large part of that was because of those turnovers. Again, 10 turnovers for Easton that first half, only 3 for Alta.
And another thing is in the first quarter, East was getting good looks at the rim, but they were missing a lot of them just because of the length. They were getting deterred away. And you sense that a little bit of that started to creep in, and they thought, oh, we can't go inside because it's going to get blocked or it's too tough in there. And so they were a little bit more of a perimeter team in that second quarter. But all because they were missing those shots early on doesn't mean they weren't good looks and they weren't executing the offense.
So Alta starts with possession here in the second half, up by 17. This is their largest lead of the game. Far cry, I think, from the first quarter where first half of their largest lead was only 5 as Ace Reiser can't get that one to go. Doliak trying to go up, got ripped. And Sutton now leading the charge ahead. Look at this. Breakstead can't get that one to go, but the offensive rebound and the putback is good. And one for Cooper Dodd. And how about that? East getting out in transition in a hurry.
Something we haven't seen a whole lot tonight. Berkstead will tell you he missed it on purpose. He'd rather have 3 points on the possession than 2, right?
You of all people would know that experience, Tyler.
Missing fast break transition layups?
I think that's both of us. I'm sure we've all done that at some point. My dad can attest to that as well, him being a former semi-pro basketball player himself. Here's Johnson out front. Pull up from 17 feet. That's too strong. But the rebound is tipped directly into the hands of Goodfellow, who puts it up and in, plus the foul.
If Doliak claims that he meant to do that, then that's one of the best passes I've ever seen. Reaching around the head, and his arm just swings around, and it falls right into the arms of Goodfellow. I'm not sure that we can say he meant to do that, but we'll pretend that he was able to.
Well, we'll give him that one. Yes, Carter Goodfellow goes to the line. That foul, by the way, on Breakstead was his 4th, so he is not going to be playing for a good little while. As Goodfellow puts in the free throw, once again makes it a 17-point lead. Here's Lunt out front. Lunt backing down. Kicks it out in the corner. Wide open 3. Schneider. Bingo! And the Leopards get their first triple of the ball game here in the third quarter. Jax Johnson out front. Here's Dash. Back over to Doliak. Coming up from down deep. Here's Ace. Ace drives. Nice fake. Gets to the rim and scores.
Ace has such a smooth game. He's had 7 assists against East on January 3rd, and he's just so good with the ball, making decisions. That time he uses the pump fake to get himself open.
Dribbled out of bounds, goes back to the Hawks. Make it 11 turnovers there, and a good force by Ace Reiser there on Jay Schneider, who hit that last 3. Dash for 3. Left that one short. Chasing it down is Doliak, but he saves it right to Schneider. Nice bounce pass to split the defense, and Dodd goes in and smooches it off the glass. Here comes Jax Johnson, hurrying it the other way. He goes off glass and scores.
Jackson Johnson with the layup.
Starting to go up and down here. And as is their want, Scott Fields imploring his team to slow it down. On the dribble handoff, here's Sutton. Step back, 3-pointer, cha-ching!
And they had Johnson on Sutton to end the first half, but now you see Reiser's back on Sutton, and because Sutton has a little bit of separation, there's not as much height, he's able to get up and have an open look at a jump shot rather than not having that opportunity at the end of the first half.
Jax Johnson looking, bullet pass underneath. That was almost stolen away. Good defensive pressure there from Lunt to come over and get that. It will stay here, though, with 13 on the shot clock as Bo Compton comes back in. 5 minutes and 18 seconds left here in the third quarter. Ace on the curl. Here is Jax Johnson. Backs his man down. Turns. Trying to throw that into Dash, or rather to Ace Riser, and turns it over. Here comes Schneider.
It's a little too unselfish from Johnson.
And now Johnson gets called for the foul on the arm bar on Schneider. And now Schneider comes up a little slow. I think he might have got hit in the throat.
Number 13, Jackson Johnson. It's his second foul.
Second on Johnson.
Of the quarter.
And Johnson's such a good overall player, and it's such a trait of this Alta team, the unselfishness. But right there when Johnson is a couple feet away from the basket and he turns over his shoulder, that's an opportunity for him to square up and put it in himself.
Yeah, like we said, Tyler, it might be good for them to go through him a little bit more. It looked like that three got deflected. And all the way down the floor, here's Goodfellow and scores!
There's a great opportunity to find your teammate. We've seen Johnson do that a couple times, the full court look off of a rebound.
Again, it looked like that three-pointer by Dodd got deflected as it left his hand. I think maybe Johnson or Doliak might have got his hand on it. This one, no one's getting a hand on that three. And it makes it a 12-point game, so East hanging around here to start the beginning of the third. Oh, look at that move by Ace Riser.
It floated through the lane.
Man, he is so smooth. And he is so strong as well for his stature. And that's a good trait of all three of the risers, Ace, Isaiah, and Dash. They're all relatively undersized for their stature, but they are very strong and very, very athletic. That's why they are three of the best guards defending in the state of Utah. As that that shot is no good. That launched down the floor. Doliak ends up going 2 rows deep into the stands. Goodfellow was trying to commit a foul. Meanwhile, here's Schneider for three.
And already East in just 4.5 minutes has outscored their first half. They've had 17 in the third quarter, and they only had 16 in the first 16 minutes.
And this is the closest they've been, 11 points. Nice pass underneath to Goodfellow on the backdoor cut on the baseline from Ace Riser. Schneider again, or rather that's Cooper Dodd. It's a 10-point game. 19 points already in this quarter for East. And a much-needed three there for Doliak to answer back. Just the third three of the game for Alta. But again, the Leopards hanging around. It's just a 13-point game. It was a 10-point game not 2 minutes ago as an offensive foul called underneath. It's going to be called against Jay Schneider for a legal screen. As we're having to fix the scoreboard here. Our scoreboard, by the way, is correct. It is 49-36.
15, Jay Schneider, that's his first. Team second in the quarter.
But give the East Leopards credit. This team hanging around here late part of this third quarter. Doliak leaves that three short. Schneider racing up the floor, pass deflected. And Doliak able to gather it. Here comes Papke, who just checked back in. Papke in the corner, Goodfellow. Inside to Doliak.
What a stretch of play for Doliak. East was staring at wide open layup in the face, and Doliak gets his hands on it and then runs the floor, and he gets himself a wide open layup on the other end. A big stretch. 5
quick points for the Alta Hawks have restored their lead to 15 points. It's a full timeout. We'll take one with them. Back after this word from Igloo Outfitters. Rewind Sports Network's coverage of Alta Hawks basketball presented by Opal Luxury Surfaces is also presented by Mighty Dog Roofing. For over 20 years, Mighty Dog Roofing has provided homeowners and business owners nationwide with the high-quality roofing services they deserve. They are a locally owned, Triple B accredited, and Owens Corning Platinum preferred contractor. Mighty Dog Roofing, a proud sponsor of every dunk by the Alta Hawks this season. Alexander Timolik, Tyler Gibb out of the timeout, with Alta leading 51-36 over East. It looks like Alta's going to go full court press here to begin this sequence out of the timeout. Actually, they drop back out of it. But Tyler, give East credit. They're hanging around. 17 points in this quarter. And really, it's all come from an extension beyond that three-point line.
Yeah, they've been on fire to start the third quarter, and they haven't been easy looks on some of them. They've had defenders running at them, but a good shooting display to start the half.
Foul called on Jackson Johnson. That's going to be his third, no basket.
How about Alta High playing Get Your Head in the Game from High School Musical during the timeout with the East Leopards in town?
Well, it certainly does fit, Tyler. I mean, it also brings back a lot of the grade school memories for you and for me, because that's third and fourth grade right there for you and for me.
I don't know if it brings back a ton of memories for me. I can't say I was jamming out to it a whole lot, but maybe.
No. Don't look at me. I wasn't doing it either. So I'm only saying that for the fanatics, if you will. Anyway, here's East with it out front. Here's Christensen swinging it over to Sutton. 20 on the shot clock here with 90 seconds left here in the third. Sutton, lost control of it. And it is turned over. Looked like he had a great chance to drive right to the basket. Now here comes McKee kicking it. Compton, wide open three. Cha-ching! Another Handel's ice cream three-pointer. And this is now the largest lead of the night for Alta. They have now scored 8 consecutive points. Passes deflected, almost stolen away. Schneider takes the bump and a foul along that sideline. Or rather, they're going to call it out of bounds. I thought they were going to call a foul, but I guess the contact was minimal enough that the officials were happy to let it go, and it's a turnover. That's the 13th turnover for East. They had 10 in the first half, only 3 though in this third quarter, but those 10 turnovers in the first half making a difference as Compton leaves that 3 short. Pushing it ahead now, Lutton transition all the way in, and he gets blocked by McKee, but a foul. And they're going to get him for the hack on the side of the head.
McKay's not a huge fan of the call. It was a great pass from Sutton and then a great block on the other end. He definitely got ball, but it looks like he got some arm going up on the way is what the officials saw. It's tough, quick play that goes on, but fun basketball.
The Rewind Sports Network's coverage of Alta Hawks basketball is presented by Opal Luxury Services. We remind you it continues next Tuesday as the Alta Hawks travel to Salt Lake to take on the Skyline Eagles. Matt Kama has the call for that game starting at 7 p.m. I don't know why, Tyler. I feel like if you did that to me, you get called for a foul every single time.
If I blocked you like that?
If you blocked me like that and you caught me on the head, you probably would get called for that every single time. McKay has that ejected from the rim. Scramble for the loose ball. Schneider comes out of the dust cloud with it. And this will be the last possession of the quarter. And very fitting. Alta, or East rather, has had the possession, the last possession in every quarter. Sutton the floater, got it. And a steal. Schneider able to put it up. It goes. How about that? 4 quick points. And the East Leopards showing they're not going to go away quietly here tonight in Sandy. Setting us up for a really great fourth quarter here. Alta up by 13, but it's not that comfortable. Moment here in between quarters as new Alta football coach Blake Burdett was introduced to the crowd. Alta Hawks basketball on the Rewind Sports Network tonight, presented by Opal Luxury Services. Because they know marble is the #1 selling stone for countertops, and people are always terrified to use it because of staining and etching. And know that Opal Luxury Services has the solution. You can get the marble you want and don't worry about the other stuff that happens. Contact them online or on social media today. Mention this ad and the Rewind Sports Network together to get $200 off. Blake Burdett, of course, the former Utah Ute, member of the 2005 Fiesta Bowl team. But here he's watching the Alta Hawks in a dogfight here with the East Leopards. The Leopards were down by 13 or down by 18 earlier, but they cut it to 13 just before the end of the quarter. They have been as close as 10, but they have never gotten it within single digits. So a big possession here defensively for Travis Horn's crew. 15 on the shot clock. Anderson, and a foul. Foul called on Matt McKee, his second. So a new shot clock here for the Leopards. East has turned the ball over 13 times, 10 in the first half, just 3 in the third quarter. But they have been costly. Tipped out of bounds, it will stay here once again. And Tyler, you see the length being an effect on the passing lanes there for East, as it has been all night.
And we see they put, they've done a good job when they put length on the ball rather than down low, which is obviously effective when East gets into the paint, but they've been more effective when they've had the length on the perimeter. And we see Johnson right now, he's guarding out on the perimeter.
And Breakstead back in with the 4 fouls. Here's Christensen backing down. Double fake underneath the scoop. Doesn't go, but he does draw the foul. And that foul is going to be called on Zach Papke, his third. Rather, that is his 4th. So Papke for Alta, Bergstedt for East have 4 each.
And you know what's been fun to watch, Alex, in this second half especially, is Coach Fields on the sideline for East. You can see him, he's about to appear in the bottom right of your screen. He's been pacing up and down the sideline, and after a couple big shots, he's been holding out his arm and doing a fist bump. So he's been animated in that third quarter, especially as East has turned things around.
Papke trying to answer back. Rattles out. Schneider the rebound, and with a 3-pointer, East could cut the lead to single digits. Christensen looking for a cutter. Anderson drives, offensive foul. Looked like he drove the shoulder right into the chest of McKee. That was a pretty easy call. The 14th turnover for the East Leopards tonight, and all of them have been costly and have come at unfortunate times. As we approach 6.5 minutes to go here in regulation time. A 12-point game, but certainly doesn't feel like one right now. McKee looking on the block. Johnson pretty well guarded. Reiser. Some fancy ball handling. That shot is blocked by Christensen. Here comes Schneider. Dodd. Tipped out of bounds. It'll stay here as it went off the knee of Reiser out of bounds.
Give a lot of credit to East. In the second half, they've come out and they've been the aggressor. They've been the team that's been more active, and they've outscored Alta so far through the first 9.5 minutes of the second half. Rather than coming out and laying down, they've fought.
Schneider fake, and the 3. That once again hits the scoreboard out of bounds. And we'll go back to the Alta Hawks.
I know he missed a shot, but that was quite the pump fake to be able to keep his feet down.
Yeah, half of his feet were off the ground, but he was able to stay anchored to get the shot off. A 12-point lead for Alta. Their largest was 18, but it has been as close as 10. Lob on the block. Here's Johnson. Johnson coming by, almost turned it over. Hook shot in the lane, gets it to go. So when in doubt, just go to number 13. And meanwhile, we have a foul, and a double foul, in fact, called on Bo Compton and Sawyer Sutton. Scott Fields down on our right-hand side asking why a double foul, but a pretty easy call for us from up here, Tyler. They both had each other's jersey, and that's been a battle all night long between those two.
And you can see Alta throwing a whole lot of different looks and trying to be physical with Sutton to throw him off. Sutton got off to that hot start at the end of the first quarter and beginning of the second, but they've been able to slow him down a little bit more the second half, but the other guys have stepped up.
Reach and foul called on Zach Papke, and if that's him, that's his fifth.
That's his fifth foul. He's come down the game being replaced by Ace Razor.
Clock was running for an extra 3 or 4 seconds, so they're going to go over and put a few extra back on the clock. I think it was supposed to be stopped at 5:25. So we'll wait for that to come out. Scott Fields, like you said, Tyler, you see him walking across the bottom of your screen right now. He's into this. He's animated. And that's exactly why East has come back into this game. They've had the fire lit underneath them.
And you can say that either he's given that fire to his players or if his players have given that fire to him. But either way, you can see it reverberating around the whole East team right now. They have a lot of energy and hope. And even though it's still 14, this is a time for them to play some of their best basketball against arguably the best team in the state.
Again, Alta number 23 in this week's USA Today Super 25, as Johnson able to get that one, and then a frustration foul by Christensen.
Foul the play. This foul is assessed to number 2, Campbell Christensen. That's his first, team third of the quarter.
13 foul already on East here in the quarter. 14 fouls called on Alta. Compton wide open for 3. Air ball right over the back of the rim. But Schneider, unfortunately for him, could not control the rebound.
They just gave Schneider a technical.
And they're giving him a technical foul because he threw the ball up.
Technical foul.
So East, not a time you want to have that.
And that's a tough one for...
That's a tough one.
And you can see it in Coach Fields' face that he's happy that there's the emotion and that in the fourth quarter in a 14-point game that his guys care this much and that they're this into the game and that they're competing. But he also knows how much of a backbreaker it can be when you're trying to complete such a comeback and you give up 2 points like that. So it's one of those things you love to see the guys fighting. You love to see the emotion. You just wish that they don't show it in that way in that moment.
Yeah, an unfortunate error has been the story of the night for East. Again, 14 turnovers. As we're going to get, what are we going to get? A foul or are we going to get a block or get a travel? I think we're going to get a blocking foul. Looked like the foul occurred first.
On the play, this foul is charged number 13, Cooper Dodd.
Cooper Dodd called for the foul, his first.
That's his third team.
Or rather his third, that's the 5th on East. So the Hawks are the first to the bonus here in the fourth quarter. Johnson to the line, hits the first. The Rewind Sports Network's coverage of boys basketball continues next week on Wednesday. A big Region 10 showdown is highlighted with Dusty and Dane as they travel to Murray as the Spartans take on the Cottonwood Colts. Coverage starts next Wednesday night at 7 on your home for high school basketball. The Rewind Sports Network on KSLSports.com. One of many monster matchups next week in boys high school basketball. Here is Christensen. Wrapped it allowed to go. It gets it to go. 60-44. Again, credit the East Leopards and first-year head coach Scott Fields. They have made this harder for Alta than I think a lot of people expected as that rebound rat-a-tats through traffic and out of bounds it goes. And we're going to get a timeout by Scott Fields with 4:09 to go here in the fourth quarter. It'll be a full timeout. We'll take one with them. We'll be back after this word from Mountain Land Truck Outfitters on the Rewind Sports Network with Alta by 16. The Rewind Sports Network's coverage of Alta Hawks basketball is presented by Opal Luxury Services. As Alexander Timolip joins you here with Tyler Gibb. 16 points the deficit for East here heading down the stretch. Tyler, what are you most impressed with about this East team here tonight? Even though they've had the unfortunate mistakes with the turnovers, what stood out to you the most about the way this team has fought back?
Well, they came out in the first quarter and they played a solid first quarter. They only trailed after 3, but then we saw the talent of Alta in the second quarter. But that's when you would see a lot of teams against this Alta squad kind of lay down. But East, they've fought defensively. They've made it really tough for Alta, and they've done a much better job at taking care of the basketball.
How about that move right there from Bergstedt on the foul? He has had some game here tonight, despite playing with 4 fouls for about a quarter and a half.
For the Leopards, number 23, David Bergstedt.
David Bergstedt to the line to try to complete the 3-point play. Again, still a lot of time left, despite it being a 14-point game. Alta needs to close it out. Dash over to Ace. Gets the screen from Jax. 15 on the shot clock. Johnson now on top. McKee. Nice fake by Reiser. Step in and hits the corner, Jay. He has had some game here tonight. Another steal though off the inbound. And Dash Reiser is able to put it in. Alta's defense just doing a number here tonight. 15 forced turnovers. And they all have been huge. And Tyler, I would even dare say they've made up the difference in the game between these two squads.
Yeah, there's been a few quick spurts that Alta's had where they've gone on a quick 4-0 or 6-0 or 8-0 run that has really separated them. Each time East has tried to respond, Alta will build that lead back up.
And just like that, another turnover, 16 now, as McKee able to get that one to behave. And this now is the largest lead of the night. And Scott Fields, once again, will take a timeout. Seven or 16 turnovers forced tonight by Alta has given them a 20-point lead down the stretch here at home. Alta Hawks basketball presented by Opal Luxury Services. Alta now with their largest lead tonight, 66-46. Once again, taking advantage of multiple East turnovers. They've outscored the Leopards here in this fourth quarter, 12-5.
I know we've talked a lot about East and the heart and fight that they've shown in this game, which is well-deserved, but I think that also speaks to how talented this Alta team is and how good they are, because every time East has tried to get back into it, Alta has had a response, and we saw Coach Fields in that timeout in the huddle saying, hey, you know, we got to play with heart and imploring them, and that just shows and speaks volumes to what they've done against this Alta team and how just good Alta is, and it really is a privilege for a lot of these teams to come in and compete with Alta. And when you're competitive in a game like this, obviously it's been brought to 20 now because of a quick 7-0 run by Alta, but that just shows, one, how much respect these teams have for Alta, and two, you know, Alta, they have so much talent, but you just can't take easy nights off or else teams can still compete.
Nice pass, Ace Reiser. You know, he's just showing off now. And this now is the largest lead of the night. Bergstedt going to the basket, fouled by Goodfellow. Foul is called against Goodfellow. And Tyler, I think in hindsight, you know, we can talk, I think people will talk about, obviously, as Bergstedt steps up to the line and hits the first. A lot of people are going to look at the scoreline and say, oh, it wasn't really that close. But, you know, you talked about in your keys to the game is treasure the basketball. What's made the difference in this ball game really has been the turnovers.
Yeah, and I said rebounding and turnovers, and they've done a great job rebounding, East has, against this Alta team. They've actually brought down quite a bit of offensive rebounds, and they've limited Alta's second chance points, but it has been the turnovers. It's been that side of treasuring the basketball. 17
turnovers, Tyler, and I think, we talked with Coach Travis Orrin before the game. He said, this team can't afford to take any nights off. I mean, it's so easy, like we said, to overlook an opponent like East in the standings. And this just shows you how seriously they are taking that, because it's clear that, they had, East was close for about, you could say, on the scoreboard, about 3/4 and a half of this game before Alta finally pulled away. And I think, Travis Orrin, I think you'll agree with me, Tyler, can use this as a learning lesson for this team as Dodd hits another three.
And that's what Coach Orrin, talking to him before the game, he said, I asked him, why do you think that this team can win a championship, and in what ways do you think that they need to improve or get better that could prevent them from winning a championship? And he said that they can compete and win every game because of their defense. And you show that, and some nights you're not going to be hitting shots, but your defense can always show up. And we've seen that here. Their defense, although it was a little lackadaisical in the third quarter and East was knocking down their open shots, we've seen their defense really will them to this game. And then you look at the scoreboard, and they've still put up 70 points because that defense has turned into offense.
And that's what I think, Tyler, as Sutton pulls up and hits that J as we're under a minute to go. That's what's scary about this Alta team, and I think what makes them better than last year's team.
Yeah, it feels like offensively Alta hasn't put on, that much of a shooting display, and like they've been knocking down every shot. Normally when a high school team puts up 70 points or more, it's because they're knocking down a ton of shots, hitting a ton of threes, but this team is just able to do it in a ton of ways. And tonight they've shown how they can do that with their defense leading to offense.
David Berkstedt picked up the foul, by the way. That was his 5th, so he is fouled out of tonight's game. Definitely an honorable mention for our player of the game presented by Heidemann & Associates, which Tyler and I will name coming up at the conclusion of this game in about 44 seconds. I'd like to remind you that Heidemann & Associates is offering a free consultation when you contact them online or on the phone. A proud sponsor of the Rewind Sports Network. Final 40 seconds. It's all over here except the shouting as Sutton puts up the floater. Doesn't go. Tipped out of bounds. It will go back to Alta. And for all intents and purposes, that will do it. Compton gets the inbound. Scott Fields' team will just drop back. We'll credit the East Leopards. They hung around with the Alta Hawks as Reiser goes in and scores. And that is going to do it. And we're going to get an offensive foul. That is the 18th turnover of the night for East. It has been the story of this game. Still 2.5 left on the ledger here inside the gym. Our clock on the scoreboard says 0, which means time to warm up the bus. It's over.
And that'll do it for the game.
The Alta Hawks.
53, your Alta Hawks 74.
Victorious here tonight, 74-53. Back after this word from Any Hour Electric on the Rewind Sports Network to wrap it up. Back here for the Rewind Sports Network's coverage of Alta Hawks basketball presented by Opal Luxury Services. Alexander Timolip and Tyler Gibb wrapping it up. Alta wins 74-53 over East. So Tyler, first of all, let's just give credit where credit is due to the East Leopards. They made this game interesting with the 23rd ranked team in the nation for quite a while, but in the end, Alta's defense was just far too good. 18 forced turnovers on the night by Travis Orrin's team.
Yeah, a lot of positive takeaways for Scott Fields and his players, especially in the second half and in the third quarter. But then there's a lot of things that Alta can learn about themselves, both good and bad in this game. You know, you see that you need to come out and play a full 32 minutes, especially later in the season and in the tournament. But it also shows, you know, how capable they are when they really lock in and defend.
So it's time to name our Heidemann Associates Player of the Game, presented by the full-service law firm that is committed to winning for their clients. Tyler, he was the orchestrator. He was the maestro all night long. He was, shall we call him the flying ace riser tonight, our Heidemann Associates Player of the Game?
There was definitely a few plays that it looked like Ace was flying through the lane, and he's so good when he gets inside at controlling his body. And it's like you see a lot with, you know, the best players in the NBA, like Luka Doncic or those guys that are able to just control their body when they get inside and they control the game, and that's what Ace did tonight. He was so effective at orchestrating and dishing out the basketball and then taking advantage of his turns to score.
So Tyler, before we wrap it up, one last thought here tonight from the booth. We are now at the halfway point of region play, and Travis Horn talked about how much more difficult the games will get from here on out. And there's a lot of monster matchups next week in high school basketball. Just how important is this second round of region play to a lot of these teams that are still fighting for a winning season?
Yeah, you can't get by as much on just pure talent. Teams are used to your tendencies now. They've had a look at you, and kind of that off factor and that scared factor wears off because you've already seen them. So you need to come out and you really need to lock in and play a full game. You can't have many lapses in those games, and that's why it's so much harder to win the second time, is because you really have to be focused. You can't win on just pure talent.
It will certainly show up here in the second round of region play, which starts next week on Tuesday when Alta takes on Skyline, and Dusty Litzner travels down to his old stomping grounds in Carbon High School down in Price to watch the Carbon girls take on the Richfield Wildcats. Tyler, here we go, buddy. This is it. The home stretch of the regular season's upon us. Things are about to get really interesting.
A lot of good basketball in this state, as we see two teams in the top 25 in the nation from Utah. And so the basketball is fun. It's good teams in it, and it only gets more exciting and more intense as we work our way into February.
We're working our way into February. The calendar's turning quickly. The final score tonight, though, Alta 74, East 53. For Tino Psyche and for Tyler Gibb and for Vince Francis, operating with us remotely tonight, my name is Alexander Tumala. Thank you for watching Alta Hawks basketball presented by Opal Luxury Services. Until we meet again, we encourage you to take care of one another, everyone. Stay safe. Good night from Utah, and aloha until we meet again.